So welcome everyone to our last meet and greet of the year. It's crazy because now 2025 is just around the corner and 2024 has flown by. It's also end of the year, and so we have some people who registered who are missing. So we're gonna see if they join. Maybe they went to sleep early or they kept sleeping. We're today with the Bangkok Living Lab. My name is Andrea San Gil. I'm the executive director of the Global Network for Popular Transportation. We are a network of people around the world that are basically fighting for the recognition, the support, the investment, and the integration of popular transport for it to be part of sustainable, inclusive, resilient transport systems around the world. We work with academia, we work with policymakers, we work with cities, we work with practitioners to try to do this, build capacity and provide resource and guidance and support to start transforming the way that we look at popular transport. This meeting will be recorded, so in case you're not able to attend the whole thing, or if you want to share with someone, please do it after. We will share the link. And as Jackie said, please introduce yourself in the chat. You can say where you're from and your name, where you're coming from. Today, we have a smaller group, so I think it's easier to interact. These meet and greets are essentially spaces where our network can meet and exchange knowledge and exchange our insights about popular transport. This is a relatively new topic in research or in international transport conversations. It's not new at all in our streets. It has been there for decades. It has just been very much ignored for a long time by policymakers and by planning, etc. So this is one of the things that we're trying to change from GMPT and from the PRISM partnership. I will ask Jackie to tell us a little bit about PRISM. PRISM is our partner for these meet and greets this year. Usually in the meet and greets, we bring someone in from our network and they talk about their project, their research, their initiative on how to support or learn from or understand popular transport better. And this year we've partnered with PRISM, which is the Partnership for Research in Informal and Shared Mobility, to articulate with the living labs around the world that are doing different research projects on popular transport. So we're learning for popular transport from different contexts around the world and sharing that knowledge to better understand it and better orient policymaking and decision-making on the field. So Jackie, the floor is yours. You can introduce us a bit more on PRISM.
Thanks so much, Andrea, and thank you for organizing this meet and greet. So I'm Jackie Klopp, and I'm at the Center for Sustainable Urban Development at Columbia's Climate School here in New York City. And I have the privilege of facilitating this partnership for research on informal and shared mobility, which has three main pillars. One is to really deepen and expand research on informal and shared mobility. And we have, to do that, amazing partners in 7 different cities, including the Chulalongkorn University Transport Studies Institute and the Bangkok Living Lab team, which is here, and they'll introduce themselves. And we're really excited to talk to them about their cutting edge work, which they've been doing for a long time. But this is, they're building on remarkable work they've been doing to participate and really build the living lab approach to studying these really important modes that often are neglected, like Andrea says. The other pillar is building a community of practice. So we really are very open. We're eager to connect with different networks and researchers and policymakers and journalists and civil society folks to expand our general understanding of how to approach improving these forms of transport and the people who rely on that, and supporting the people who rely on them and work in them. And also figuring out the regulatory and investment and all the policy elements that go into that, and integrating them better with high quality multimodal public transport systems, which are fundamental for access and climate and air pollution and dealing with all of these issues. Finally, and very importantly, we have a next generation scholar network, and we have some of the next generation scholars here from Bangkok, and I'm just really excited to hear from them. And this network is to support really the young and upcoming scholars with their new ideas and projects. And so if you are a next gen scholar, please make sure you connect, you join our network, and we have many different kinds of opportunities coming up and ways that we can support you and your community. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to back, I guess, to Andrea to start the conversation.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jackie. We have almost the whole team from the Living Lab here. So the idea is to have a conversation and learn a little bit about what you are doing and what you're learning. And so any of you can jump in depending on what the topic is. So I think the first question for you is essentially, what is the research about and how did you decide to do this research and the scope that it is, and why did you decide to focus on the motorcycle taxis in Thailand?
Okay, let me start. Saksit Chalampong, or you can call me Tan for short. And I'm the lead of Bangkok Living Lab, or co-lead. Apiwat is sort of my co-lead of the lab. And we are in Bangkok. We are doing um, this project to try to encourage, motivate, or support motorcycle taxi drivers to switch from internal combustion engine to electric motorcycles. And we want to try to use participatory multi-stakeholders approach to build an alliance to do this, to support EV motorbike taxis to change. And we want to explore different opportunities, business opportunities, and other aspects like infrastructure and policy requirements, as well as environmental impacts of the switch of electrification of motorbike taxis in Bangkok. And so to give you some background about why we are interested, oh, okay, so here's the agenda. Um, I'll talk a bit about the importance of motorbikes and electrification of motorbikes in reducing air pollution and climate change impact, and the importance of motorbikes in Thailand. So to give you some context about why we choose this topic, and I'll report some progress and findings that we have done so far in the past year, and we'll talk a bit about the next steps. I understand that we have only 10 minutes to introduce the project, so I'll try to be brief. So first of all, next slide. Um, since you already showed that, let's get back to that previous slide. So this is the some statistics about the motorbike ownership per capita all over the world. You see, this is not a very good representation of the statistic. Red meaning dark red is like low motorbike ownership, and dark blue is high motorbike ownership. And you see that Thailand is not that high according to the statistics um, uh, globally in terms of motorbike ownership, but Vietnam is the country where motorbike ownership is the highest per capita here. Next slide, please. Well, elsewhere around the world, the ownership is pretty low, but that statistic was from like 8 years ago, and now it becomes more important, especially in developing countries. And when you talk about motorbike, you might think that it's like a small vehicle, but some studies have shown that the emission per traveler or per passenger is not that much lower compared to cars. It's here. This is statistics from Australia. So the carbon dioxide emission per person for car is about 240 gram per person uh, per kilometer traveled, whereas motorbike is about half that, and it's a lot higher than other public transportation mode like trams or train or bus. And so that is why we think that it is important to try to address this issue of carbon emission among motorbikes. Um, and the especially in developed countries, like in those countries in sub-Saharan Africa, the total number of motorbikes in 2022 was 27 million and is expected to rise to more than 50 million by 2050. So that's gonna generate a lot of carbon dioxide emission, and to try to cut down on emission from these sources will be very important in combating climate change. Next slide, please. Here are some statistics from ASEAN or Southeast Asian country. So this statistics kind of consistent with the map that you saw before. So Vietnam has the highest ownership rate in Southeast Asian countries, followed by Malaysia and Thailand and Laos. So on average, there are about 100 motorcycles per 10,000 people. Southeast Asia has the population of about 700 million. So that would be about 600 million. So 600,000 motorbikes uh, in in Southeast Asia. Well, I'm well, anyway, in Thailand, there are 317 motorbikes per 1,000 people. So it is nearly 3 times the Southeast Asian average. Next slide, please. And here are some statistics about the breakdown in Bangkok and in Thailand overall. In Bangkok, the motorbike ownership is the rate is a little bit lower than the rest of the country, and car ownership is the has the highest share. Whereas in other provinces in Thailand, the rate of motorbike ownership is a little bit higher. Next slide, please. Um, and we want to focus on the commercial motorbikes because um, well, there are a lot of commercial motorbikes in Thailand and in other developing countries, and these vehicles are used a lot more intensely than in private motorbikes that are used by the general population, because they are used throughout the day and used over long distance. And the three types of motorbikes that we are focusing on are first is the traditional motorbike taxis, or in Thailand it's known locally as WIN, WIN. And then there are the application more well recently there with the introduction of on digital platform or online application, the ride-hailing service and parcel and food delivery service become very common in Thailand and in other Southeast Asian countries. And but because we do not have official statistics about these types of vehicle, we do not know much about how many and where these vehicles are. In Thailand, the traditional motorcycle taxis, the WIN, had been formalized for since about 2005. So it's been like semi-formalized for quite some time, and regulatory system is there. So we know somewhat about the number of motorbike taxis in different locations, and especially in Bangkok, we have, and the suburb, we have close to 100,000 motorbikes registered, and the rest of the country we have about 119 thousand registered as motorcycle taxis, and that is what we know about the traditional motorcycle taxi. But we know almost nothing about the private motorcycles that are used for ride-hailing service, the app-based ride-hailing service, or the delivery service. So we know next to nothing. And although Thailand had passed the regulation to try to regulate these vehicles, uh, there are still a lot of motorbikes that are not registered and are still operating as the app-based service.
Dan,
Well,
can I
yeah,
interrupt you right there for a
sure,
couple of
sure,
questions? So
sure.
when you said that the WINs were formalized in 2005, what does that entail? What does formalization mean in that
Okay.
context?
Yeah, so if you look at this slide, you can see these are what that entails. So you are required to have a public driving license or commercial driving license. And for that, you need to pass some tests, and you need to have certain types of training, which is more strict than the private or a regular driving license. You are required to have a special license plate, yellow color, and your motorbikes must have the engine size of over 125 cubic centimeter. So that is basically, and also you need to belong to the Motorbike Taxi Association, and there are certain quota at different locations. Moreover, you can only pick up passengers at those registered location or association only. You cannot pick up passenger like on the street anywhere you want. You have to be aware you registered only. And yeah, so this kind of creates, some sort of regulatory barriers uh, to electrifying the motorbikes that I'll be talking about a little bit later. But
Thank you.
for ride-hailing motorbikes, app-based ride-hailing motorbike, there's no such uh, association or location regulation. So they
But they
can
are asked
actually
to have the public license.
they are asked to,
Mhm.
but as you can see, there are only 388 motorbikes drivers that actually registered as the this type of motorbike. So not really effective, the regulation that was passed last year to
Mm,
try to regulate these vehicles, they're not really effective.
okay, thank you.
So we don't really know how many private motorbikes that are used for this kind of service, be it for passenger or for delivery service. Okay.
Perfect, thank
And
you.
you said you have a couple questions.
Yeah, the other one was on the license plate, that the difference between the
Okay.
private and public. When
Yeah.
you mentioned the areas, is there any criteria on where these areas are, and also what is the local name for those areas? Sometimes we know that in some places they're called stages, in other places they're just called stops, but is there a local name to where you can go and catch a win?
Okay. So it's actually Win is also the name of the location. So if you say Win, you know that's where these motorbike taxis are parked. Yeah. And the location, in order to form an association, you need to have apply with the Department of Land Transport of the Ministry of Transport, which is the regulator of all um, road-based transportation service. So you need to um, uh, show that there are demand, which is kind of the evidence is not very clear how you will prove that. So it's very discretionary, and official of the Department of Land Transport would evaluate or assess the need for such service. And I think one of the key criteria is the location, I mean, the availability of parking spaces for motorbikes. You need to show that you have enough parking space, such that the parked motorbikes at the Win would not obstruct traffic or passenger or pedestrian facilities. That is one of the key consideration. Yeah. All right.
Great. I think Jackie has a
Jackie,
question.
sure.
Yeah, since you mentioned parking space, I'm curious who manages where these motorbikes, usually park where they're waiting for customers, and who manages that aspect of the business, and where do they
So
get the land sort of to do that?
yeah, so the association that they register, right? You are required to have like a sort of committee, management committee of the association. And then this committee will deal with, renting the parking space, also with other matter like paying for utilities, um, or other facilities for the um, the the WIN members. And some of the associations are so well developed. Well, of course, they have like the rules about the dispatching, who gets to go first, who gets to go later, that sort of things. But some associations have become so advanced that they have some sort of like a social, like a group welfare, like financing or other, kind of support for the member. In fact, one of our Bangkok Living Lab member, Bo, you met Bo in New York City, Jackie. And Bo is a very active researcher that have uh, dealt a lot with the association. I believe that he even belonged to one of the association, right, Bo? Can you talk a bit about your membership and how advanced your association is in terms of the management and, support among the WIN members and all of that?
Yes, Ajahn, thank you. I'm not one of them. I just observe and pretend to be one of them. Yes, and as Ajahn Saksit mentioned, some of the association in which we also call them WIN. So we use WIN in many meanings. WIN also means those motorcycle taxi driver, and also the associations, the groups of motorcycle taxi that got the permission from authorities to operate their services. So to set up a new WIN, as Ajahn Saksit mentioned, you have to show to the authorities. Authorities mean the Department of Land Transport, the BMA, Bangkok Metro, and the local police. So this WIN will have to follow many regulators, at least 3. And actually there is an additional one, the หน่วยงานความมั่นคงเนี่ย national security something, because in the past they have involved in some political movement. But anyway, the former associations or the WIN, they were allowed to use some part of the walking way, the footpaths, and some of them are allowed to use a roads, but just only in one line and only in particular period of time. For example, in the rush hour, they are very busy because they serve as a first mile and last mile, right? So they are very busy and at early morning and late afternoon, right? So the local authorities will allow them temporarily, just only for some period of time, to use some small portion of the road and some on the footpath, but make sure they not obstruct the people to walk around. So that's the criteria for using the parking that Jackie asked.
Yeah.
Thank you
And
so
the
much.
reason that there are so many regulators is that the operation of motorcycle WINs involves many aspects of public space use, and like the sidewalks are regulated by the local government. This is sort of idiosyncratic of Thailand government system. The sidewalk is regulated by the local government, but the road surface itself is law is enforced by the traffic police, and the vehicles and the driver's license are regulated by the Department of Land Transport. So they have to get green lights from all these authorities. Yeah, and so it's kind of curious. But hey, we have not covered these are all background, right? We haven't talked about what we're doing yet. So
Go
why don't we
ahead,
move
please
on?
go ahead. But I think it's
Yeah.
really valuable insights, because a lot of the times when people talk about popular transport, the notion is that it's not regulated and that it's chaos because it's not regulated. But in so many places, it's actually very heavily regulated. And also that's why it's very difficult for a lot of them to comply with all the regulations. So thank you, because this also gives a lot of context.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Next slide, please. So here are like this show the WIN drivers. So they have to wear orange vests. You can see. Our Jackie got one, I believe. We all got one in our Living Lab team, and so you see that these drivers, they occupy the sidewalk, and they have like umbrellas for sunshade, and that license plate, the yellow license plate, is a commercial vehicle license plate. So cab taxis have yellow license plate too. Buses have yellow license plate, not automobile, not private car. Those who have white license plate. And that's the driving license, the commercial driving license, and the identification of the WIN drivers. And that map show, I believe Bo had developed some sort of online application that you can, use to hail this traditional motorcycle taxi. So he's kind of competing with the application-based developed companies Anyway, next slide, please. Well, this is why we want to focus, and I mentioned this a little bit before, that these commercial motorcycle drivers use their vehicles a lot more intensively than the private vehicle. And so you can see the daily driving distance, the mean for the traditional driver is 85 kilometer every day, whereas the app-based drivers nearly 100. But private users have only less than half of that number. This is from our previous studies that we surveyed more than 1,200 drivers of these different types of motorcycles. Next slide, please. Okay, and this is what we have done so far. So first, we explore the ecosystem of electric vehicles in Thailand, and we know that there are different kinds of stakeholders that are involved in the EV ecosystem, from the manufacturer of the vehicles to the battery manufacturers to the users or the drivers of electric vehicles themselves, and the funders. Also public stakeholders like regulators and policymakers, as well as other types of organizations or agencies, non-profits, NGO, academic agencies. And so here, for example, we look at each and each one of them and try to cluster them according to their relationship among each other. For example, Grab. Grab is the largest ride-hailing application in Southeast Asia, and they dominate the market in Thailand. Nobody knows for sure, but I would say that the market share is probably more than 90%. And they operate not only cars but also motorcycles ride-hailing service, and they're getting into EV, electric vehicles based service too. And so they got different stakeholders from different types of stakeholders, like the manufacturer of EVs, not only foreign but also local EVs like Stallion. Stallion is the manufacturer of electric motorbikes, and Stallion in turn, the manufacturer of EM based in Thailand. They also got work with other agencies like NTEC, UNEP, to try to kind of market electric motorcycles to different types of drivers, be it traditional motorcycle taxi drivers, app-based drivers, or the general drivers. There are actually several demonstrations project that different companies, different agencies, government agency try to engage with drivers, mostly commercial drivers, try to promote, to try to encourage these drivers to switch from internal combustion engine to electric motorcycles. And we have talked to several of them. The agencies like EGAT, which is in the previous slide, it's not here. Yeah, EGAT. Yeah, that's the Electricity Generating Authority of Thailand. It's the state enterprise, and they launched a demo project with motorcycle wins near their headquarters. So they basically gave away free electric motorcycles to the wind near their headquarters in an effort to try to promote motorbike taxi. And they work with Stallion and Entech in doing so. They also try to promote the battery swapping model to make it easier for the drivers to not to have to spend time charging the motorbike, thus losing the time to make money. And there are other similar projects like Winnoni. You see Winnoni, the green circle, a big green circle in the middle. Yeah, top, yeah, that one. That one is a project that was initiated by Bangkok. Bangkok is probably a second largest local petroleum company in Thailand. So basically an energy company, and they're getting into electric vehicle business. And so they also have this project with win-win. The first word of this win-noni is actually a word play in Thai. Okay, NIE, the NIE ni is means debt, you know, and no ni so mean no debt. So this is the kind of want to help the wind drivers to clear their debt by you know not giving away that, but try to promote electric motorbike, which is supposed to lower the operating cost and lower the overall cost of operation of motorbikes, that sort of thing. So in doing that, um, they have this demonstration project. And there are many other projects like PTT also got into this. PTT is the largest petroleum company state-owned in Thailand. And the BTS also got into this Bangkok Transit System, the largest transit company in Bangkok area. So many different companies and agencies got into the business of trying to promote electric motorcycles among wind drivers. Interestingly, they focus on wind drivers first. But next slide, please. After we talked to these, okay, I need to try to wrap up now. We talked to like these different stakeholders, and we found uh, out that they kind of, after trying to engage the drivers of motorcycle taxi, traditional motorcycle taxi, to try to convince them to electrify, right? They found that it's difficult to do so, partly because of the regulatory barriers. Things like the engine size, things like the registration of the vehicle. Interestingly, the battery swapping won't work because the regulator would only register the whole vehicle. And so that means the driver has to own the battery also in addition to the vehicle. So that prevent them from register the electric motorbike, for example. And battery is very expensive. It costs maybe half or nearly half of the whole vehicle. So that is where if the battery swapping model does not work, then it would prevent a lot of drivers from switching. Well, and because of those, I think now many of the agencies that I mentioned, they're moving. Go to next slide, please. Yeah, they try to move from trying to work with engaging with passenger service, traditional motorcycle taxi. They're trying to move to the delivery service, be it an app-based. But the problem is right now we do not have much information about these folks at all. We don't even know how many drivers out there, providing this sort of service. The only people who know this is the Grab, and of course they won't share the data. And so I think it's important to, that we as academic to try to shed light on this sort of unknown, and some basic research would be helpful. And one of our next gen scholar part is keen in working on this topic, and maybe if we have time, he can talk about it briefly. But anyway, um, I'll stop here and take any questions you might have.
I, of course, have many questions, but let's see if anyone in the crowd has any questions for now.
I think there's some question in the chat box.
Let's see. No, I think it's mostly comments.
Oh, comments.
Jackie, go ahead. Maybe that will make people want to ask more.
Well, actually, I'll let Dylan go. Dylan, please go ahead. Comments are great too.
Yeah, very nice presentation. Succeed there. We know
Thank you.
briefly each other as well. And
Yeah.
yes, after a long time, how are you? And this, battery swapping is becoming really coming as a good research topic because of the charging infrastructure and unavailability. And during the day, people might not have enough time to wait and charge. So one of the projects I work with, I'm actually the advisor to the project, work in Uganda. And there are a lot of motorcycles for food delivery, even private motorcycles as well. And we are looking into business models for Uganda, and also I'm collecting data from the UK as well. And we are looking into basically finding out what are the barriers, possibilities, what are the things that we need to do to improve the motorcycle delivery and low carbon transportation. And this might be really interesting to feed into your research as well. And same time, with the team, we could think about additional research as a global sort of, not just Bangkok, but also Colombia and the colleagues here working there. And yeah, I'm really interested in looking into the business models, how to actually improve the motorcycle transportation into low carbon mode, which is really interesting and coming as a key topic in this part of the world too.
Sure. On batteries, there's actually one interesting lesson from Bangkok,
Yeah.
which might not be very common in other places. And, we are in the tropical region, right? And we have monsoon season, and sometimes the roads or the streets are prone to some flooding. And so the design of the motorbikes are very important. And so Stallion, one of the companies that we had engaged with, they come up with this design where the battery, the swap battery itself, are placed under the seat
Mhm.
rather than near the pedal.
Yeah.
So in that way, you can drive motorbikes even in the flood. So that is one of an interesting lesson that take into account, the local condition and the local context.
Yeah.
And in other similar places with similar climates, this might be important issue that would, placate the concerns of the drivers who might be worried about the driving conditions.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is something we need to think about, either the vehicle design or the convenient charging, and of course, where to store, and also how to charge quickly at home, for example, the battery life and things like that. And let's look for Royal Society sort of a funding call for us to work together. That would be interesting if, of course, Jacqueline and the team and Andrea as well, team would like to work as a team. I think it would be interesting. Yeah, I miss research in Asia.
Amazing. I like how all of this is already creating new ideas of what else to research. That's the perfect purpose of these spaces, also to do some cross-pollination. Jackie, you had another question?
Yeah, and thank you, Dylan, so much for that. I think, as Andrea was saying, one of the ideas also behind PRISM is to do more of this comparative work and see how that can also illuminate different, dynamics that are going on, knowing that often things are very place-based and contextual as well, but it's profoundly useful also. So yeah, I had a couple questions. One is, I wonder if you could talk a little more about the regulators. And you mentioned, one of the main focus of your work is addressing these regulatory barriers. So I wonder if you could talk a little more about those barriers that you're identifying. The problem around the licensing is very clear. And then how are you having these conversations with the folks who need to maybe change some of their rules? And the other question I had about, are all these different categories of services completely distinct? Because I know in some cases people can be very creative about being part of a win. Well, this I'm speculating now. I'm saying in other countries, they might be part of a win. They might also have an app to do other services, but they don't have business locally. May even then do service deliveries at the same time as passenger services. There's a lot of creativity because of the, need for income, basically.
Okay.
And then I'm curious whether different groups seem to also adopt technologies at different rates. And therefore, if there are people who are connectors, it's kind of interesting, right? Because they do all of these. Anyway, just some thoughts.
Okay, I'll answer the first question, and I'll let Apiwat, who's been quiet of late, to take the second question, which we had just discussed previously earlier this afternoon, and we had actually prepared a slide for this too. Anyway, regarding the regulation. I think the regulatory barrier stems partly from the fact that these regulations was created a long time ago, uh, before the electrification of vehicles. So they were created to regulate internal combustion engine, and they had, and so that is about the um, vehicle standards, the age, the engine size, that sort of things were based on ICE, and they need to be updated. And I think once they are updated, we should be okay. Um, and actually, we talked about the people from the Department of Land Transport, about the battery ownership and the battery swapping. And some of the officials in the department seem to believe that there's some unclear or misconception or misunderstanding about the interpretation of the law, that you have to own battery also in order to get your vehicle registered. But in any case, the regulation is actually not clear. So this needs to be fixed. And once fixed, hopefully that we can get rid of those regulatory barriers. That being said, the other types of regulation, and that is the regulation of the operation. You know how different WIN must be formed and registered, and regulated. The location of the parking, the condition of the facilities, these were all again formed in the previous age. So they don't take into account about the need for things like charging station or battery swapping station, and they need to be updated as well. And so that hopefully that's one of the outcome of our research is the recommendation to the authority how their regulation should be updated. Now over to Apiwat.
Yeah, so Jackie, when we started thinking about this project, we really it was the idea was based on our previous experience doing research on motorcycle taxi drivers, right? But then, since COVID, delivery, services by motorcycles have increased, like dramatically, right? This is totally a new group of motorcycle users that we didn't anticipate before, right? And then, and it actually affects the way we think about this transition to electric motorcycles as well. We thought at the beginning of this living lab that we could just focus on working with different players in the ecosystem who would help the transition from from ICE motorcycle taxis to electric motorcycle taxis. But it turned out that even those who are in the ecosystem, Bo can probably tell us later, but basically people who have started experimenting with different business models, some of them were kind of like us, working with motorcycle taxi drivers, for passengers. And then they realized that as a business model, it doesn't work as well as they thought it would, exactly how we thought. It turned out that now they're shifting more to the delivery motorcycles because, certainly they're more cost effective. If you're going to buy a new motorcycle and spend that much money, you might as well use it, like as long as possible, right? 10 hours, 12 hours a day versus motorcycle taxis for passengers. Even though they drive a lot more than private motorcycles, they're still not driving as much as delivery. I mean, delivery is like, in terms of labor, it's really bad. It's much, much worse than motorcycle taxi drivers. It means that, the vehicle itself is used, pretty much 10, 12, if not longer hours. So it means that in terms of cost, initial cost of buying a new vehicle is much more effective, cost effective. In addition, going back to what said earlier about regulations, there's so many more regulations on passenger mobility than logistics, right? So for platform motorcycles, they don't have to qualify for certain regulations or qualifications because there's no safety issue, at least from the passenger's point of view. So in terms of electrification and transition to electric motorcycle, now things are moving towards the delivery part than the passenger segment of motorcycles. So now we are at this dilemma as a living lab. I mean, that was the whole point of the living lab, right? We're experimenting along the way. Like, all right, we know that the business sector, the technology people are shifting towards the delivery segment of motorcycles. What do we do with this original idea with the motorcycle taxis? There's still one or two players left who want to explore this model with motorcycle taxis, but we really have to. We are at this very juncture of deciding, like what to do with our project in terms of like, how are we going to engage the motorcycle taxi drivers even though we know that the business models themselves are shifting towards more the delivery people. So that's where we are at the moment. But that's the whole point of the Living Lab, I guess. We have to sort of experiment and, figure out how we can move along. So.
Can I respond briefly?
Yes,
I think,
please.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think that one of the other main concepts of the Living Lab is equity and the concern of, the bigger companies that, are able to get the capital to do the electrification are going to be the ones that benefit from this technology. There's a public benefit that's also coming out of that in cleaner air and decarbonization. So I am curious about the health costs of to both the workers and the passengers of being exposed to the emissions, which you talked about at the very beginning. And I'm wondering if this public health aspect isn't also a very important element for government to invest more in supporting some of the electrification of this important mode. Because it's savings in terms of, human well-being and things like that. So I'm just wondering if that's an angle or something also that you've been thinking about.
Well, if we go, I mean, definitely that's a very valid argument. I haven't heard much from the Thai government side about the public health part. I mean, in general, it's more like a mobility issue. And then after that, it would be the labor issue. And then the public health comes sort of like, a little bit later, right? But one of the major funders for these kinds of projects is the Thai Health Promotion Foundation. And they have funded some of both
Demonstration
projects.
project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a quote unquote foundation, but it gets support directly from tax revenue. So I think if anybody, I think they're the one whom we should probably engage in terms of public health angles. But there's a tricky situation also with this electrification. It's sort of, the unintended consequence or the rebound effect that comes out of cheaper operating costs, which is basically when it's cheaper to operate per unit, they may end up working longer hours because it's cheaper, right? I mean, because they're no longer limited by the cost of fuel now, with electric motorcycles. We don't know that empirically. That's a hypothesis, but there's so much in terms of research that we still need to do. Yeah.
Let me add to responding to Jackie's question about the health issue. I think, to be honest, I don't think that's um, an overriding concern of the government or the authority. I think they are more concerned about things like public safety, you know, preventing traffic accidents, or well, to be honest, trying to um, uh, um, uh, make them, the drivers live together in peace, not fighting. That's their overriding concern, I guess. Yeah, and so and not to obstruct, the traffic, or not to obstruct pedestrian sidewalks. Uh, those kind of things are the concern of the authority. We are not at the point where they are concerned about the welfare or the health of drivers yet. And I'm afraid this is true for other developing countries as well.
Yeah. I am also curious, are they concerned about new safety concerns with electrification? Certainly, we've had some issues with electric bikes and safety, and making sure people properly how to address batteries and charging. And so I'm So that it can also cause more complications, I guess, in an already complicated situation. So I am curious if there's any pushback on that as well, from a sort of safety perspective, or there's just not enough even knowledge about this, the implications of electrification.
You hear incidents here and there, but I don't think it's a widespread concern at the moment. I mean, the major concern at the moment is absolutely it's about cost, whether or not it's cheaper, and whether or not that would, do well in like during the monsoon season, for example, right? And I just came back from Vietnam, trying to write a similar report, and it's very similar there too. The concern is mostly about cost, and about durability. And interestingly, we didn't mention this yet, but the secondhand market, right? I mean, how the rate of depreciation is perceived by the users. That would be a key factor against the shift to electrification. Because for cars and for ICE motorcycles, they can sell the secondhand used motorcycles relatively easily. But the secondhand market, the used motorcycle market is not there yet. So it's very hard for them, especially for these workers, motorcycle taxi drivers, and even motorcycle users in general. They are relatively poorer, right? So their livelihoods are more unstable than others. So they may get the newest motorcycles, but then the following week they might have to sell it. And if that's not possible, then that whole thing becomes part of the calculation. Yeah. So that's what I've heard in Vietnam as well.
Well, we are over the hour. Definitely, I think an hour is not enough to discuss all of the different angles around this topic, and I wish we had more hours. But thank you so much for telling us about your research. I think it's really impressive how the different living labs are bringing out insights that can afterwards be shared with policymakers and regulators to start changing policy and changing regulation to enable these transitions to happen, transition to electrification, to fairer work conditions, to better infrastructure, etc. So I think that's the value of this type of research, to better understand a sector that has been invisible for so long is essential to be able to transform the way we address it and the way we are incorporating it into these transitions towards electric mobility, towards more modern cities, more inclusive cities, etc. So I think we have learned very interesting things in this session. I never expected for regulation to prevent electrification because the battery has to be part of the ownership. And those things so simple, right? They sound very simple, but that's usually what prevents a lot of things from happening. It's simply that the technology was not there, and we could not imagine this back when the regulations were drafted, and that happens in so many spheres. So thank you so much to the Bangkok Living Lab, for all of you to come here and share this knowledge with us. The idea is for this to be out there and for other people who are doing research on this to learn from your experience. We will continue to have these spaces next year. This year we focused on specific living labs and what they were doing. Next year we will talk about different topics. So we might talk about technology and digitalization. We're going to talk about the economics of popular transport, the business models, the payment, etc. We're going to talk about safety, security, different concerns and different topics that cut through popular transport, no matter where we're talking about. So thanks again, and we will hopefully see you all next year to continue talking and exchanging experiences and learning about pop transport. So good night, good afternoon, and good morning, depending on where you are. And thanks again so much for joining us today.
Thank
See
you.
Alright. Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Have a great
Bye.
day. Have a good
Thank
night.
you.
Bye.
Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thank
Bye.
you.
That was great.